You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Welcome back to another episode of the Hella Well with Danielle podcast, your weekly mental vacay for the busy woman of color who is looking for a little help on her healing journey because she knows that together we thrive versus just being in survival mode. I am your host, Danielle Washington, and if you missed last week's episode, this month I'm focusing everything about relaxation. Last week we talked about why you're not relaxing, like reasons why you legitly can't. Legitly. Is legitly even a word? We're just going to go with legit. Cannot relax. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I would pause right now, go back to that other episode, listen to that, because there's some good reasons to understand, kind of getting underneath the surface of understanding why you may not be relaxing. So when we're getting to today's episode is, I am actually trying to relax, but this isn't working. It doesn't feel relaxed. And the reason why you often don't feel relaxed is because you're doing it wrong. And I'm going to preface this conversation by saying I've totally been doing relaxation the wrong way for many years until I knew about these things and I kind of realized that, these weren't working. But there's nothing worse than actually saying, I'm going to actually make the time. My schedule's hella busy. I have all these things I'm doing, but I'm actually going to be intentional to make time to pause, to breathe, to break. And it doesn't work. It feels like I'm still stressed out and nothing has done anything. You probably were doing one of these things that I'm going to talk about today, which low-key, they're one of the worst things you could do if your intention is to actually relax, to recharge the mind, the body, the spirit, and to just have a moment to breathe, have that mental vacay that we all need, because it's not a luxury, it is a necessity. If you're doing one of these things, you're doing it all wrong. So I want to talk about ways that we may unintentionally be blocking our relaxation. But before we get into that, with every episode, if you are new, I like to just tune in. I'm a yoga teacher. I kind of like that feeling of telling everyone in the outside world, have several seats. This is my mental vacay time. This time right here with you and I are here together. It's time for us to connect. It's time for us to pause and focus in on our healing before we get back to doing everything else that we do. So if you can, close your eyes, sit up tall, and just begin to focus in on your breath. Listening to the inhale and the exhale. And we're going to take just 3 deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. So let's begin. Inhale deeply, deep, 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 feeling the air going all the way up to the top of your head. Then exhaling through your mouth, sighing it out, letting go of what no longer serves you. Inhaling deeply and exhaling. And one last time, inhale deep, 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 deep. Hold it for a couple seconds. Then just sigh it all out of your mouth, keeping your eyes closed. Setting attention for today. Allowing yourself to just be present, to be here, to be now. Taking a moment to have your mental vacay. 20 minutes. Just giving yourself 20 minutes to breathe, to pause, to focus in on you. Because you're worthy. Take one more inhale. Exhale and open your eyes. And let's get into today's practice or today's topic. So you saying today's practice because that's what we do as a yoga class. Like we're getting in today's practice. But healing is a practice and relaxation is a practice. Relaxing is a practice. It's one of those things that I actually had to stumble several times to understand that, sometimes it doesn't come easy. Some people, it comes naturally, and I talked about this last week. Sometimes relaxing comes easy to people. If you're like me, relaxation doesn't come effortlessly. I have to actually practice it so it becomes more comfortable, becomes easier for me to do it. And so today is a practice of figuring out what are we unintentionally doing wrong that's not actually helping us relax. The first thing I wanted to bring up, because I think many of us do this, even though I know it's bad, I still find myself doing it. So I'm going to sit here and say, I think it's one of the most important things I want to talk about because we do it all the time. And let's think about it. You're stressed out, someone's annoyed you, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, you're feeling burnt out. What's the first thing we typically do? We grab for our phones. We grab our phones and we start scrolling. Scrolling on social media, scrolling your email, scrolling anything is one of the worst things you can do to relax. It doesn't relax you. The studies have been shown that it doesn't relax you. Studies have shown that we have this tendency when we're so attached to our phones, when we don't know our phone is, like, we actually have anxiety. And I've totally done that. Like, oh my God, where's my phone? Because we're so used to having it. It keeps our brain going, going, going. Also, think about the information you're seeing. You can't control what you're seeing. If you're scrolling on email, if you're scrolling through social media, you may see something that triggers you. You may see something that annoys you. You may see something that drives you down a rabbit hole of thinking like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. Or, oh my God, I need to do this. And shoulding all of it. I should be here. I should be that. I should do this. You start working. And when, again, what was supposed to be a pause, a moment of relaxation, a moment of a mental vacay becomes the mind working. And then if you're being triggered or if other things are coming up, emotions are coming up, your nervous system is being triggered and your body is going through flight and flight. And it's like, ugh. And it doesn't feel like you're being relaxed, because reality is you can't control what you're scrolling, but also this is just not a good look. There's a quote from, I think it's Ariana Huffington, that I love. It says, one of the dumbest things the smartest people do is sleep with their phones in their bed. And I used to do that. I used to sleep with my phone in my bed because what was the first thing I would do when I'd wake up, I'd open my eyes, roll over, and I'd get on my phone. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to scroll for a couple minutes. I'm just going to scroll. Studies have also shown if you starting your day off by scrolling, there's a good chance that you are flooding your brain with cortisol and all these dopamines. And what happens is during the end of the day, midday, somewhere around that time frame, you start feeling sluggish. Why? Because you flooded your body so much in the morning because you were doing that morning scroll, which was, oh, it's supposed to relax me. It's supposed to ease my way in. When in actuality, it's making the rest of your day not look so good, not feeling so relaxed, not feeling just at ease with yourself, not feeling grounded. So one of the things I definitely encourage people to do if you want to relax is don't go to the phone. If you're going to the phone to relax, I'm hoping, I'm praying you're going to an app that has meditation music. You're going to a YouTube channel that has a relaxing binary sounds, or you're going to Spotify and you're listening like that. I hope that's what you're doing. But if you're grabbing your phone to pause, to relax, to recharge, and then scrolling, girl, you might as well go run in the middle of the street, because that's just about the same thing you're doing your body. You're giving your body that anxiety. So you just go run in the streets. Why get on the phone? Just go run the streets, because you're doing the exact same thing. Another thing I feel like we do, and I do this. So I say again because I want you to know I'm not calling people out to shame anyone. I'm not calling these things out to be like, oh man, you're doing it wrong, you're bad, all these different things. I'm calling these out because we don't often know. And sometimes we even know, we might need a reminder of like, oh yeah, that is bad. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Healing is not linear. We go through ups and downs. We may know something and we may slip up a couple times. It's about giving yourself grace, but also sometimes we just don't know. And when you don't know, you can't blame yourself for not knowing. So I wanted to have these conversations. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about also was the fact that putting relaxation on your to-do list. We do that. We're like, oh, we love to check off things, and adding that to your to-do list is just another way to stress yourself out. Your to-do list, there's nothing, I don't know about you, but your to-do list doesn't say, oh my God, relaxation. It just feels like, oh, there's another thing I have to accomplish. There's another thing I have to be good at. And if you're a perfectionist, making your relaxation, making your me time, making your mental vacay be something you have to check off is actually making it another stressor that you're adding onto the list. And so you don't want to make relaxation a chore. You don't want it to be another thing you want to check off on a list, because it's not going to look good for you. I have done this a little bit as not. I don't know, girl, why am I lying to anyone? I'm like a little bit. I did this often, especially when I was going through like some depression from a surgery. I had a surgery that had me out for many months, and I wasn't feeling good. The pain medication wasn't working. I was stressed out because of work. I've done this because I've just been stressed out for many different things, taking care of my parents, work, a bad conversation, annoyed with something else, bills, you name it. One of the things that we often do, and we don't always catch ourselves, like we're stressed out, we're needing a break, we feel like I just need to relax, I just need to pause. I'm going to open that bottle of wine. Whether it's wine, maybe yours is tequila, it's beer, maybe it's rum, maybe it's whatever your cocktail of choice, whiskey. We often have a tendency to run towards the bottle to relax. Like we're like, oh, I've had a bad day. Let me open up a bottle of wine. And I did that last week, even though I knew I was doing this podcast. I did it last week because I was having a bad day, and it just came so automatic. I was just like, bad day. Where's the bottle of wine? I stopped myself after I opened the cork, which didn't really help, because I'm like, I just wasted the bottle, because I'm like, I don't want to run to the bottle. Because what I realized in running to the bottle to relax me, it doesn't really relax you. It affects your sleeping pattern. So if you're talking about wanting to relax, going to drink, and if I'm not even trying to drink a lot, sometimes when we feel like we need to relax, we drink to excess, and then you're like tipsy, hungover, blacking out. And let's see, the next day you're not feeling well. There's a headache. You are feeling sluggish. You didn't sleep well. You may be like nauseous, so you can't really function. You're not really creative. It doesn't help. We may think it helps. We may think there is some relaxant to it to some degree, but in the long scheme of things, running to a glass of wine, running to whatever liquor is of your choice, is not going to actually end up helping you. And if you really are about really relaxing, if you're really about that mental vacay, if you're really about recharging your body. And it's tough because it just becomes so natural. I think we see it in movies, we see it with our friends, we probably saw it with our parents. And it's just so second nature. But I encourage you, instead of running to the bottle, find something else. Maybe it's a dance break. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a call to someone. See the difference between and just notice it. Also, even if you are doing it, no shame, no game. Hey, you're heading to the bottle because you've had a bad day. I encourage you to also look to see, how do you feel when you're doing it? Ask yourself, do I really feel relaxed doing this? Ask yourself the day after, did this actually help me in any way? At least evaluate what's going on. If you're going to do it, at least evaluate what's going on to see if it's working for you or not. Another thing to figure out, and another thing I would encourage you to evaluate, is we often are turning our hobbies and our modes of relaxation into side hustles. I did it, and it was one of the worst things I could have ever done. Travel is my form of therapy. Travel is my form of relaxation. Travel can be used the wrong way. oftentimes some people use travel to escape. And that's another way I really do want to talk about is like, if you feel like if you need to, in order for you to relax, you got to get on a plane, you got to get in the car and go somewhere far, get that Airbnb, that hotel. That's something that you really need to check. That's something that you really need to look into, because all you're doing is running from whatever's going on, because it's still there. It's not really relaxing. You're just escaping. You're not necessarily relaxing. I'm all for taking a pause to breathe and to recharge. But if the only way you can relax is by getting away, that's not going to be sustainable in the long term. You can't always jump on a plane. And maybe if you are balling like that, hey, good for you. But for most of us, we can't jump on a plane each time something goes wrong. Oh, someone cut me off, or my boss is tripping. I'm just going to jump on a plane. You can't always do that. My child is annoying me. You just can't jump on a plane, not without the child, and that's probably not going to help you either. So I encourage you, if you are using travel as an excuse, as relaxation, but it's really a form of escapism, kind of watch that. I did a whole podcast on escapism, so I don't want to go further into that. If you scroll through the Hello Well, like some of the earlier podcasts, you can see a podcast I did on using travel as escapism. But what I was going to say, kind of going back to my point, was that for me, travel has always been my form of therapy. It's been my form of relaxation. I didn't necessarily need it to go away, but one thing I did realize in doing that is that I realized that I was traveling a lot to experience nature. And when I realized like, oh, I can experience nature at home, I don't really need to travel. But what I really loved and what was relaxing to me was I low-key love researching things. I love finding like unique places to stay. I love finding like cool things to do that are off the beaten path. I love finding unique food places. That's my jam. I love researching. And I love researching another country, another city, another destination, because there's something about it. I can't say what it is. I don't know why that's a form of relaxation for me. I don't know why that's fun to me. But for me, that was fun. It was something I enjoyed doing. And I would just do it when I was bored, because even when I wasn't trying to go anywhere, I would just like, oh, let's look up this destination. Let's look up things to do. Let's find all these things. People started realizing that I was doing this and like, oh, you should totally, make that a business. You should totally add that on as a service. And I did. And let me tell you, that drained the F out of every single point of joy and happiness that brought to me. Making what was a hobby, making what relaxed me, which gave me joy, gave me a pause from my life, into a side hustle, became something that it was now like a necessity. I had to do it a certain way because people wanted it a certain way, or I had to use cities that didn't inspire me. And it literally was like a vampire came in and just sucked all the blood and joy out of what made me happy and relaxing. And so now I don't even do it. I go on trips and I'm like, I hope I have a place to stay by the time I get there, because I've done no research to the point where I usually don't even have a place to stay. God knows I don't have a place to get from the airport to wherever I'm staying, because I haven't figured out wherever I'm staying. This is not always the best. I mean, it's fun sometimes doing that, but because I had turned my hobby, my relaxation, into something that no longer gave me joy by turning into a side hustle, it went a whole 360 to the point where, or 180, I always forget which one of those are. But it made it to the point where I actually kind of hated, and I still kind of do, actually doing the research. What I have loved for years doing to help me relax, help me just have fun, help me when I was bored, gave me something to do that brought me joy, no longer was joyful. I'm not telling you not to, I'm not knocking the side hustle, because the side hustles are real, especially in today's economy. Get your money. However, I ask you to think about it. At what cost? At what cost are we creating these side hustles? Is it worth to create a side hustle at the cost of something, your major thing that gives you the best form of joy, relaxation, and just love? Is it worth it? I ask you to ask yourself, at what cost? Is it, if it's worth the cost, then go for it. But oftentimes we don't think about it, or I definitely didn't think about it. And now what was something that was happy for me is no longer happy for me because I listened to everyone else turn that side hustle into, turn that hobby into a side hustle, make your money. Don't make your money at the cost of you. Don't make your money at the cost of you. What is for you will be there for you. You don't have to beg, chase, borrow. So remember, there's a cost when you are turning your hobbies and the things that relax you into a side hustle. And often that cost is your joy. And you have to ask yourself, is it really worth that joy? And so the last thing I wanted to bring up, because, hey, we do this as well. I'm definitely, someone who's been caught doing this often. Gotten better, especially once I've started getting to the point where I feel like I'm following my own drum and I'm following my own path versus trying to follow what everyone else is doing, is following what everyone tells you need to do to relax. Following the trends, like, someone saying, girl, you should take a bath with matcha. That's the best way to relax. Knowing good and well you don't like matcha. Someone says, the best way to relax is with a tub full of live snakes. If you know you don't like snakes, if you know you ain't gonna touch a snake, why are we following these trends? I'm not saying don't try new things. 100% try new things. Try it at least once, maybe twice. But if you know that you know that you know, that ain't for you. Why are you doing what someone else says is relaxing when you know it doesn't work for you? So I invite you to do what works for you, not what someone else says to do. If you are trying something new, try something new. But if you know that that is something that someone's telling you, or there's this trend, the relaxation trend, if you know that you don't like getting a pedicure and everyone's saying that's the best way to relax, don't do it. You are the one in control. You are the one driving the seat. You are the one driving the seat. Does not make sense. You are the one driving this car. It is your life. So Becky Sue, who's on, Instagram or whatever platform, who has 20 million followers, who's saying take a bath with the snakes is the best thing to do, is not the one. She's just some random car that's passing by. I need you to know that your voice matters. Your preferences matter. And your preferences definitely matter when it comes to relaxing. Because if they don't, whose does? Because who's in control? You. So again, pay attention to the cost of these side hustles that are being these hobbies and relaxation modes that are be turning into side hustles. Pay attention to, are you using travel as a form of escape? Pay attention to, are you running to the bottle to quote unquote relax? Are you putting relaxation on your to-do list because it's just as another chore on your life? And are you scrolling for days thinking like, it's just going to relax me and wondering why you're not relaxed? If any of these things sound true like you, this is for you. Next week is even more important for you. Next week, I'm going to be talking about ways that you can relax that are a little bit different. These are suggestions. I'm not telling you must do all these things. Wellness, relaxation, joy, happiness, healing is like a pair of custom jeans. What works for one does not work for the other. I offer you resources through this podcast. I offer you suggestions of things that may be a little bit different than you've tried, to give you options of things to try to see if it works for you. But at the end of the day, it's about creating what's right for you to get you to your point of being on your path of healing. and getting to that mental vacay that we all need. Because again, taking that mental vacay is not a luxury. It's not for others. We are deserving of it. It is a necessity. It is a necessity. Again, taking those moments of mental vacay is a necessity. But making sure that you're doing it in a way that's actually helping you, not hurting you, is important too. I love you, and I will see you next week. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.